So if you have a slow thyroid, this video is for you. Here's the big problem. When you do research on a hypothyroid, it's a bit complex because
the thyroid is indeed quite complex. But hopefully this video series can help simplify it just a little bit. Thyroid hormones are molecules produced by the thyroid gland. A gland is just a functional unit of cells that work together to create a product and release it. The thyroid gland is best described as a small butterfly-shaped gland that sits in the neck, in the region that most people would describe as the Adam's apple. The thyroid gland itself produces two molecules, T3 and T4. But the signal to produce these molecules actually begins in a region of the brain referred to as the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus creates and produces a molecule called TRH. TRH then travels through the vascular supply between the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, and binds to the TRH receptor located on the pituitary gland. This causes the pituitary gland to release a second molecule called TSH, which similarly travels through the vascular supply between the pituitary gland and the thyroid gland, binds to the TSH receptor located on the thyroid gland, causing the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. The thyroid gland does this by uptaking iodine and tyrosine, an amino acid, from the bloodstream, and through a series of mechanisms producing its eventual byproduct into the bloodstream, T3 and T4. About 90% of the product produced by the thyroid gland is in the form of T4, and only about 10% is in the form of T3. With that being said, T3 is considered the active form, and T4 must be converted into T3 to actually have any biological effects. Luckily, numerous different cells within our body contain an enzyme called the deiodinase enzyme, which can essentially just remove an iodine from T4, converting it into T3. This enzyme is located in a myriad of places, including the liver, the kidney, the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus, the cochlea, the adipose tissue, the bones, muscle, heart, and central nervous system. The way that T3 works is quite fascinating. Inside of all of our cells, we have this small structure referred to as the nucleus. The nucleus is the structure inside of every cell that contains the DNA. Inside this nucleus, there are what are referred to as thyroid response elements, shortened as TRE. Thyroid response elements are small proteins that can bind to our DNA and change the transcription of different genes, increasing or decreasing the production of specific proteins. If there was no T3 around, these thyroid response elements would not bind to the DNA and exert any physiological functions. But in the presence of T3, these thyroid response elements can bind to our DNA and change our gene expression. They can do two distinct processes: activation or repression. Activation is the process of increasing the expression of specific genes, therefore increasing the production of specific proteins. Whereas repression is the process of stopping the production of specific portions of the DNA and decreasing the production of specific proteins. And this is how the thyroid hormones exert their physiological effects. The effects are slightly different depending on what type of cell it binds to. For example, there are different responses in the muscle cells compared to the fat cells compared to the brain cells. And that will be the topic of the next video.